My dear friends, today I invite you into a space of healing, a space where you can gently say to yourself, I am willing to release the need to be anxious. I choose peace instead. You see, overthinking is not who we are. It is a pattern, and all patterns can be changed. Overthinking is often our mind trying to protect us, but it does so by creating stories that fill us with fear, stress, and self-doubt. The mind races ahead, imagining worst-case scenarios, trying to control the uncontrollable. But let me remind you of a beautiful truth. You are safe in this moment. Let's understand this from a place of compassion. Overthinking stems from fear of making the wrong choice, of being judged, or of not being enough. But, beloved, you are more than your fear, and your thoughts are not always facts. They are just habits, learned responses, and you have the power to choose new ones. Right now, I ask you to breathe deeply, place a hand on your heart and repeat softly, I now choose thoughts that nurture and support me. I trust life and I trust myself. When we bring ourselves back to the present moment, we pull away from the illusion of anxiety. Worry lives in the future. But your power lives here and now. In this moment, you can begin to love yourself truly, deeply. Because when we love ourselves, we don't attack our own minds. We don't torture ourselves with imaginary fears. We soothe ourselves as we would a child who is afraid of the dark. It begins with willingness to pause, willingness to challenge the thought, willingness to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. And you know what? You can do that because your mind is your garden. You get to choose what grows there. So let us affirm together with love. I let go of the habit of overthinking. I choose peace. I am safe. All is well in my world. You don't have to believe it 100% today, but if you are willing, that is enough. Willingness is the doorway to change. So today, make this your mantra. I am willing to release the need to be anxious. With each breath, you are rewiring your mind. With each moment of stillness, you are choosing freedom. And in doing so, you are reclaiming your life. You are whole, you are loved, and you are free. When we talk about overthinking, we must go deeper than the surface patterns of the mind. We have to ask ourselves, why do I overthink? What is truly happening underneath all this mental noise? And time again, we find that the root of overthinking is fear. It is not just a random mental habit. It is not simply an overactive imagination. It is fear trying to protect us, fear pretending to be logic, fear disguising itself as preparation, caution, even intelligence. But fear, when left unchecked, becomes a tyrant. It clutters the mind with what-ifs, fills our inner space with imaginary futures, and robs us of peace in the present moment. Overthinking is fear with a busy mind. You see, the human mind is always trying to resolve things. It's trying to predict outcomes so we won't be hurt, so we won't be embarrassed, rejected, or feel shame. But in doing so, it drags us into repetitive loops that only drain us. The mind, when driven by fear, becomes obsessed with trying to control what cannot be controlled, life itself. But here's something I want you to understand on a deep level. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is a messenger. It shows up when you're uncertain, when you've been hurt in the past, or when you're standing on the edge of the unknown. And the unknown, for the mind that seeks constant security, is terrifying. So what do? Most of us don't pause to listen to the fear with compassion. Instead, we run from it, or worse, we feed it. We analyze endlessly. We plan obsessively. We rehearse conversations in our heads that may never happen. We imagine disaster, and the more we think, the more we disconnect from our truth. But fear loses its power the moment we name it. The moment we pause and say, I see you, I know what you are, because what we name, we can begin to heal. When we call out fear, we begin to break the illusion that our thoughts are in control of us, and we realize that we, not our thoughts, hold the power of attention. I want you to know something that may change your relationship with your own mind. You do not need to believe everything you think. Just because a thought comes does not mean it is real or helpful or even yours. The mind collects thoughts from our past, from our childhood, from our culture. Many of the fears you carry were planted in you before you even had words to question them. Overthinking is a symptom. It's a response to a deeper fear of not being good enough, not being safe, not being in control. But underneath every one of those fears is a wound, and you are not broken, you are healing. When you begin to look at fear with gentle eyes, without judgment, you disarm it. You take away its power to run your life. You start to say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I choose something new now. And that's where your transformation begins, not by erasing fear, but by becoming bigger than it, by remembering that you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, and you are capable of choosing peace even when fear is knocking. So if you take one idea from this moment with me, let it be this. Fear is the root of overthinking, but love is the remedy. And love begins with awareness. Pause, breathe, and remember you are safe in this moment, and that is always enough. Let's take a moment to look at something that most people go their entire lives never questioning: their own thoughts. You see, we grow up believing that our thoughts are facts. We experience a thought, especially one that's emotionally charged, and we treat it as truth. I'm not good enough. They don't like me. I always mess things up. And because we've thought these things often, we begin to identify with them. They feel familiar, they feel real, but the truth is, your thoughts are not necessarily the truth. Your thoughts are habits. That's all they are, repetitive mental patterns shaped by your past experiences, beliefs, and fears. They are echoes from childhood, culture, trauma, even television. But they are not your essence. They are not your soul. They are not the deeper part of you that observes, loves, and creates. Now, this is where your true power lies, in realizing that you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of them. You are the awareness behind them. And because you are the thinker, you have choice. You can choose which thoughts to give energy to, and which ones to release. Let me give you a simple but powerful image. Imagine your thoughts are clouds in the sky. Some are stormy, some are light and playful, some drift by quickly, others seem to linger. But you are not the clouds, you are the sky. You are the vast, unchanging space in which the thoughts come and go. And just because a thought is loud or persistent doesn't mean it's true. The mind has a negativity bias. It leans toward fear and self-protection. That's not a flaw, that's a survival mechanism. But we are not living in a world where we need to constantly fight or flee. We are living in a world that asks us to heal, to evolve, to grow into who we truly are. Overthinking is often a result of giving our thoughts more authority than they deserve. We think something and then we believe it. We don't stop to ask, is this helpful? Is this even mine? Would I speak to a friend this way? And often the answer is no. That's where self-awareness becomes a tool of liberation. The moment you start to observe your thoughts instead of absorbing them, you reclaim your freedom. You no longer have to be a prisoner of your mind. You become a loving guide instead, a conscious presence that chooses what to focus on, what to question, and what to let go. Now, I am not saying to fight your thoughts or suppress them. That only gives them more power. I'm saying recognize them. Witness them and respond with love. You might say, "Oh, I see I'm having a fearful thought right now. That's okay. I don't need to believe it. I can choose a new one." This is the heart of what I teach. Every thought is a choice, and every new thought is a chance to heal. In the beginning, it may feel unfamiliar to talk to yourself with kindness. It may feel strange to affirm something positive. That's okay. You've simply been practicing the opposite for a very long time. But every time you choose a nourishing thought over a fearful one, you are changing your mind. Literally, you are creating new pathways in the brain. You are learning how to trust yourself again. And when you do that consistently, your entire emotional reality shifts. Peace becomes your default. Anxiety fades because you're no longer feeding it. So I invite you to begin with this simple, transformative idea. I am not my thoughts. I am the loving awareness behind them. Hold that truth gently, practice it daily, and watch how your mind, once a place of worry, becomes a home for wisdom. Because the moment you stop believing everything you think, you begin to believe in yourself. So far, we've explored how fear fuels overthinking and how thoughts are not inherently true, just patterns. Now, let's move into what may be the most profound shift of all, coming back to the present moment. Because overthinking has a favorite place to live, and it is not here. Overthinking lives in the future. It spins stories of what could go wrong, what might not happen, what people might say, what you might fail at, and how you might not recover. Or it drags you into the past, replaying moments, mistakes, conversations, regrets, things you can't change, but keep reliving. But the mind is rarely just here, and yet this moment, this exact now, is the only place where your life is happening. If you pause and really consider that, it begins to change everything. There is no peace in the future because the future is just a mental projection. There is no safety in the past because the past no longer exists. But right here, in this breath, in this space, in this body, you are safe. You are present, and presence is power. Most of the anxiety we experience comes from resisting the present moment. We want something else. We want to fix, predict, control, or escape. The mind says, what if this goes wrong? What if I'm not ready? What if something bad happens? And yet, the truth is, in this moment, most of the time, nothing bad is actually happening. If you check in with your body, not your thoughts, but your direct experience, you'll usually find that you are sitting or standing, breathing, living. You are okay, and that's the key. The body is always in the present. The mind wanders, but the breath is always now. That's why so many spiritual traditions bring us back to the breath, not because it's a technique, but because it's a doorway to awareness. There's a quote I often share that brings this home beautifully. Worry pretends to be necessary, but it serves no real purpose, and that's the illusion. We think worrying or mentally rehearsing will somehow protect us, but all it does is rob us of peace. The truth is, you can handle whatever life brings you, but only when it arrives. You can't solve a future problem in your mind. You can only meet life as it comes, moment by moment. And when we do this, when we bring our attention back to now, we step out of fear and into clarity. We begin to respond instead of react. We soften, we breathe, we reconnect with something much deeper than thought. We reconnect with ourselves. Now, I know it's tempting to say, but my mind is always racing, or I can't stop thinking. That's okay. You don't need to stop your thoughts. You just need to step out of their grip. That's what presence does. It's not about making the mind go silent. It's about no longer being dragged around by it. And the more you return to this moment, the more you'll notice it's not empty. It's not boring. It's peaceful. It's rich. It's real. In the now, you are free of comparison, free of judgment, free of fear. In the now, there is nothing you must do, only something you can be. So come back again and again. Use your breath, your senses, your body. Come back not with force, but with love. Each time you return to the present moment, you are reclaiming your life from the grip of worry. Let me leave you with this. The future does not need you. The past cannot hold you, but the present. This sacred living moment is always inviting you home. When we've spent years overthinking, doubting ourselves, analyzing every word, every choice, every emotion, we often don't realize what's truly missing. We think we need more information, more preparation, more clarity. But what we actually need is more love, specifically more self-love. This may sound simple, even cliché, but let me assure you, it is the foundation of everything. You see, when you truly love and accept yourself, the need to overthink begins to dissolve. You no longer feel the same desperation to get everything right, to please everyone, to control how others see you. Because love real, unconditional self, love creates safety, and when you feel safe within yourself, your mind no longer has to work so hard to protect you. Let's be clear, overthinking is often a coping mechanism. It is how we try to manage uncertainty. It's how we try to earn approval. It's how we avoid making mistakes. But at the core of that habit is the quiet belief, I am not enough as I am. That belief is the soil in which anxious thoughts take root. So what happens when you begin to challenge that belief? What happens when you begin to say, I am worthy, I am doing my best, I am allowed to be human, and actually mean it? Everything changes. Because when you treat yourself with kindness and compassion, your inner critic softens. You begin to stop chasing perfection. You begin to allow space for growth. You become your own ally instead of your own enemy. And that right there is how peace begins. Now let's understand something important. Self-love is not arrogance. It's not ego. It's not about pretending to have it all figured out. Self-love is a quiet, steady commitment to treat yourself with respect, care, and patience, even when you're struggling. Especially when you're struggling. Think of a child who is learning to walk. They fall, they wobble, they get up again. Would you yell at that child for not getting it right the first time? Of course not. You would encourage them, hold their hand, cheer them on. That's what self-love looks like. It's being that supportive presence for yourself when you fall down in life. When we neglect this inner care, the mind becomes frantic. It starts saying, don't mess up, be better, fix yourself. It panics. It tightens, but when love is present, those voices lose their grip. They may still appear, but they don't define you. You recognize them as old echoes, not current truth. And this is why I say with confidence, self-love is the antidote to overthinking. Not because it makes the mind go silent, but because it gives you something deeper to stand on. Something stronger than fear. You begin to move through life with trust. Trust in your intentions. Trust in your process. Trust that you are allowed to make mistakes and still be lovable. And when you trust yourself, you don't need to run endless simulations in your head. You don't need to second guess every step. You listen, you act, and you know that no matter the outcome, you will still be on your own side. That kind of love is not a luxury, it is essential. It is the root of your healing. So, if your mind is heavy with worry, if your thoughts are spinning in endless loops, I invite you to pause and ask, not what should I do, but how can I love myself through this? Because when you lead with love, clarity follows, and I'll leave you with this, self-love doesn't silence the mind, it soothes it. And a soothed mind becomes a still mind. And in that stillness, you will remember who you really are. One of the most liberating truths you will ever come to understand is this: you can choose a new thought. It sounds so simple, almost too simple, but this is where the power lies. Because for most of us, especially when we are caught in the grip of overthinking, we live as if we are at the mercy of our thoughts. They come, and we follow them. We believe them. We let them shape our emotions, our choices, our identity. And yet, at any moment, we have the ability to pause and say, is this thought helping me? Is this thought loving? Is this thought even true? And if the answer is no, we don't have to fight it. We don't have to argue with it. We simply get to choose again. You see, the mind is incredibly habitual. Whatever you've practiced, you will tend to repeat. So if you've practiced thinking thoughts of worry or self, doubt or guilt, those thoughts will feel natural, not because they are true, but because they are familiar. But familiarity is not the same as wisdom, and what is familiar can be reconditioned. Every single time you replace a thought of fear with a thought of love, a thought of lack with a thought of worthiness, a thought of judgment with a thought of compassion, you are rewiring your internal reality. You are not just thinking differently, you are becoming different, you are becoming free. Now, this isn't about pretending everything is perfect. Choosing a new thought is not about spiritual bypassing or covering discomfort with positivity. It's about conscious redirection. It's about saying, yes, I see this fear, but I don't need to live from it. Or yes, this uncertainty feels uncomfortable, but I can choose to meet it with trust instead of panic. You're not denying your emotions. You're creating a new relationship with them. This shift, though subtle, is powerful, and it gives you back your agency. So often, we wait for external conditions to change before we feel safe enough to relax. We wait for the problem to be solved, the person to approve of us, the risk to disappear. But what if your peace didn't have to depend on the outside world? What if your calm, your confidence, your groundedness came from the thoughts you choose to believe right now? This is the inner work. It's not always flashy. It doesn't always come with immediate results. But over time, it builds a new foundation inside of you, a foundation based on intention, not reactivity. And I want you to know, even if you've spent years in cycles of anxiety, even if your thoughts have been looping in the same patterns since childhood, it is never too late to think a new thought. That's how powerful your mind is, and that's how powerful you are. Try it gently. When you catch yourself spiraling, stop and ask, what is another thought I could believe right now? One that feels more compassionate, more supportive, more honest. Maybe it's something as simple as I am doing the best I can, or I don't need all the answers today, or I trust that things are unfolding for my highest good. Even if you don't fully believe it yet, say it, practice it, and over time, belief will follow action. This is what it means to reparent your mind, to speak to yourself with the voice you always needed to hear. and to realize that the most powerful affirmation isn't just something you say, it's something you choose. So let this truth settle in your heart. You are not stuck with your old thoughts. At any moment, with intention and love, you can choose a new one. And that choice, however small, is a step toward freedom. As we bring all of this together, understanding fear, separating from untrue thoughts, living in the present, embracing self, love, and choosing new thoughts. There is one more practice that gently but powerfully reinforces everything we've explored. That is the practice of using affirmations. Now, when people first hear the word affirmation, they sometimes dismiss it. It can sound overly simplistic, or like we're just repeating nice words to ourselves, hoping something will change. But I want to offer you a deeper understanding. Affirmations are not wishful thinking. They are intentional, conscious statements that direct the mind toward truth, healing, and possibility. They are the language of belief, and belief is what shapes reality. You see, the mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it, especially with repetition and feeling, will begin to grow. And if we're not paying attention, what we often plant are the same old seeds. I'm not enough. I'll never figure it out. Something's wrong with me. And so, day by day, those beliefs take root. They become our inner script, and they keep us cycling in patterns of overthinking, self-doubt, and anxiety. Affirmations give us a way to plant something new. They give us a way to interrupt the unconscious stream of limiting thoughts and offer a new narrative, one of self-trust, peace, and worthiness. The key, however, is to use affirmations with presence, not just saying the words, but letting them settle into the body, feeling their energy, holding them like a gentle truth you're learning to believe. You don't have to be convinced yet. You just have to be open. When you say, "I am safe in this moment," you're not ignoring what's hard. You're anchoring yourself in what's true beneath the fear. When you say, "I release the need to overthink," you're not pretending the habit doesn't exist. You're simply choosing to no longer identify with it. When you say, "I trust myself to handle whatever comes," you're reminding your nervous system that you are not powerless, that you are capable and supported. These affirmations are like new neural pathways. At first, they are faint, like a trail through a forest that hasn't been walked often. But with repetition, they strengthen, and eventually the old pathways, the anxious loops, the self-criticism, begin to fade from lack of use. There's nothing magical about this. It's not instant. It's not about perfection. It's about daily, loving practice. The same way you would water a plant, not expecting it to bloom overnight, but trusting that with consistency and care, it will grow. Affirmations are not about controlling your thoughts. They are about transforming your relationship with your thoughts. They give you something new to return to, especially when the mind is pulling you into old stories. And here's the most beautiful part. The more you affirm your worth, your wholeness, your capacity to meet life with peace, the more your external world begins to reflect that. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you begin to meet it with a steadiness that was always available to you, once you remembered who you truly are. So begin where you are. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just speak kindly to yourself, even if it feels unfamiliar, even if it feels awkward. Affirm what is healing, not what is hurting. Remind your mind that it can learn a new way, and remind your heart that it is already whole. Let me leave you with this. Every time you speak a loving truth to yourself, you reclaim a piece of your power. And piece by piece, thought by thought, you become free.